Now, over the last week, a number of insurance leaders have moved towards, in fact, after a recent Insurance Council conference, the idea that it is no longer good enough for essentially city and district councils to put and private developers large numbers of risk, and particularly insurers and their profits and their premiums, which we have to be said is the modern translation to us, at such risk from making bad decisions. And one of those is Tower Insurance Chair Michael Stiassny, who said it is well past time for central government to step in and prevent more building in the wrong places of New Zealand, and that the people who ended up living in uninsurable properties and floodplains will be those least able to take a financial hit. The lower end of the market, he's quoted as saying, unfortunately, is going to be taken to the cleaners by the developer already, with the council in tow. Michael Stiassny, the chair of Tower Insurance, joins us now. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show. Lovely to hear from you again.
And you.
You used to be a liquidator. I think I remember you rightly as a liquidator when, God, they liquidated something in Hawke's Bay, one of the apple and pear sort of marketing type operations, wasn't it? You've done very well in your career. You've done superbly. And now you've ended up as Tower Insurance Chair. How long have you been in that role?
Some people would say far too long. About 12 years, but that's life.
Yeah, good on you. You enjoy it?
Yeah, I love it. It's good. And we're finally getting our business in the right space and doing the right things. So it's good.
Good on you. Now, you are one of a number of insurers who's saying, listen, we cannot carry on doing business in New Zealand the way we are. We are a country beset by weather crises. We've had them for decades. They don't seem to be getting any less. In fact, you might argue that climate change is making them worse, and that it's time for the government to step in. What do you see as the primary problem that you're encountering, Stephen? Michael.
So in the old days, insurance used to be about basically sharing the cost across every insured person. So you and I would pay for the risk of living in Hawke's Bay, Southern Dunedin, Greymouth, etc., which have a higher level of risk. And as times have progressed, the insurance companies, Tower has been instrumental in being one of those leaders, has got to the point where we work out the risk per property. So we're now looking at whether your house is more prone to disaster than your neighbour, or whether, and allowing for that in the cost of insurance. So not only does the cost of insurance vary by region, it does vary by the specific locality of your dwelling.
Okay, so instead of there sort of being some sort of universality, have you moved towards that, Michael, or are you moving towards it?
No, we are. We have risk-based pricing. We have models, and we have information now that allows us to do that. We are therefore providing good price and good cover to people at a price that is applicable to their property. Now, what that means is that some people are finding their insurance expensive or almost impossible to get, and others are seeing a reduction.
Yes, and you've just mentioned two of those, Greymouth and South Dunedin, which would be, you would think, at the lower end of socioeconomic status in this country. They would find those when you imposing those new costs, does that mean that it's just you're saying you can take the flood component out, but we'll still insure your house for fire and criminal damage and the like?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. So that's the existing, and we're working with those people. We're not throwing them out with the bathwater. We're trying to find ways of giving them a runway, enlightening them on what they do. So we're still insuring people, for instance, in South Dunedin, but it is going to be more expensive than it would be in a non-risk area in the middle of Christchurch or Auckland.
Take me through that, please, because there's two issues here. There's houses that are already built in those areas that are prone to flooding, and then there are new developments. I can think of ones just down the road, just outside Queenstown, for example, that are determined to be built on floodplains, or at least that is the developments that are proposed. Is it time for and you're saying it's time for the government on that latter one to step in now and say, you cannot build. I sit on a regional council, just to give you an example, Michael. We continually say, it's a floodplain, you can't build there, and we're continually overruled by not just district councils, but also commissioners and the Environment Court as well. Does that require a central government solution?
It does, but let's. We all appreciate that we have hidden isn't the word. We have run away from this problem for generations because we know that floodplains are close to the cities, and therefore, a developer or someone can fix the housing issue relatively easily at low cost. And we are allowing this abuse, so to speak, to continue rather than having a comprehensive view across all of our players that says we can't do this for those that are less fortunate than ourselves, and we have to make some hard calls. But if we do it together, it doesn't become a political decision, it becomes a universal decision by us all, and we need help here because it isn't, we're in the business to make money for our shareholders, no question. So we aren't going to want to insure people where the risk is too high for us and we lose money. But at the same time, we appreciate that it is the bottom end of society that is going to have a cheek-to-jowl house in a floodplain, and they will have paid, in reality, a lot of money for it, but it is going to be nigh on impossible in due course to either get a mortgage or to get insurance. It can't be good for us as New Zealanders.
No, that's the point, isn't it? Without insurance, you won't get a mortgage, and there's the problem.
It also works the other way. You won't get a mortgage because the banks now are also aware that these properties are built in places where they shouldn't be. So, the private sector is doing its job. It's getting a far better amount of detail. And yet, as you say, local government, central government, whatever, just saying we need to build houses, let's find a way of doing it, and let's not worry about it because, we might be here when this problem arises. Unfortunately, with climate change, it could be tomorrow.
The private developers, are they the ogre in this particular issue? Because they must be aware that they're building or developing on floodplains and the like, the potential risk to people who live in those new developments?
I don't want to fall out with property developers. They're taking advantage of an opportunity that was given to them. They are there to make money. I can't blame them. It just isn't the right thing to do, and they need incentives or leadership from government and central government not to do it.
Okay. As you've pointed out, we're dealing with two different classes of people. We're dealing with the developments that you've described, I think, as dumb developments, and that's just what we've been discussing now. And then about those areas, as I said, Greymouth, South Dunedin. Are there any other particular areas in New Zealand, Michael, that stand out to you as being particularly at risk that are already built up?
There are lots. There's what do you call it? Coastal plain. The developments all around the coast, which are going to be liable to sea erosion in we don't know when.
You mean the Waimara? It's not the Waimara. It's the Haumoanas and the Tiawangas of this world.
Yes, they're clearly at issue here. But it's also places where people build on cliff face, the top of a cliff. We've seen under Gabriel, some of those places fell down. I mean, I said at the conference, I think our mayor said, you've got to be stupid to build on the same place 3 times in a row and then lose your house all the time when the cliff comes down. Well, unfortunately, we allow that to happen, and it does happen.
Yeah. Well, it's
So we've got to have a stronger resolve to deal with this for the future.